Today I've got another tip video. The last one that I put out was really well received, so I wanted to go ahead and continue that trend. Like the last tip video, though, I didn't just want to put out a couple of tips at a time, and I wanted to make sure that the tips that I did put out kind of work together, so they're easier to learn them that way. These tips this week are all about perspective, whereas the tips from last week were all about observation. These ones are kind of more about perspective. Had I been thinking about it in advance, I probably would have done these tips first because they have to do with perspective, which influences your observation. Regardless, the skills should be just as easy to apply, so I'm not really too worried about that. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get into these tips. The first tip is about reflection, and by this I don't mean mental reflection on yourself. I mean there are reflections all around the world, everywhere. You're surrounded by reflections all day. TV screens are reflective. Your phone screen is reflective. Not to mention there's mirrors, there's plastic all over the place. All of this casts reflection, and if you pay attention to these reflections, you might see yourself learning to see things, pay attention to things differently. It's like, it was in Hound of Baskerville, the original version, where Sherlock he had a silver pot on the table in front of him, and he was looking in the pot to see behind him, and he was able to... John was flabbergasted that he even noticed that he was in the room. He thought it was some sort of magic trick, but Sherlock explained, no, it's just, I have a pot right here. And if you do that, you're going to learn to see things differently. For example, at work, where I work, there are mirrors all over the room. And I've learned to look in those mirrors when I have a customer or something, and I can see in the reflection of the mirror, I can see them from behind, which gives me a totally new perspective, a totally new set of data that I would normally never be able to see from where I was standing. Normally, when you're making deductions, you can only make your deductions based on what you see in front of you. So, usually the face of the person. But because I have those mirrors set up in the room, I can see behind them too, and I can see what pocket their wallet is in. I can see if they have any slogans on the back of their shirt. If they're wearing a jacket or something, I can see if there's anything stuck, clinging to the jacket. If there's any creases in the jacket from how they've been sitting, how it's been hanging up in their closet, how it's been folded, I can see these creases a lot more clearly. So because I'm looking in the mirror, I'm seeing things at a new angle, and I'm able to add that, just one extra depth, one extra layer of depth to my deductions. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is a really simple one. It's deduce yourself. What I mean by this, again, we're going back to reflections in mirrors. Every day you look at yourself in the mirror, you do your hair, you do your teeth, you check your clothes, and then you walk out the door. But if you stop for 1 second and you make deductions about yourself, two things are going to happen. One, you're going to be 100% accurate because you can confirm or deny if it's happened to you. So if you deduce that you just woke up, you can automatically confirm that with yourself. Yeah, I just got up. You don't have to second guess yourself. So this will help you see things when you look in the mirror yourself. You can apply the same deductions that you saw in the mirror to someone else later on. Another good example of this is you can deduce your friends, and I call this, is have a friend, basically. One, you can deduce your friend, and again, you're going to be considerably more accurate because you know your friend so well. And they can give you feedback, and I call that the Watson factor. It's widely accepted to be called the Watson factor. And that's because if you have someone that you're talking your deductions through with, you're having to slow yourself down because you're saying your deductions out loud. You have to slow yourself down, and you have to think over the deductions just a little bit more thoroughly. And when feedback is given on your deductions, you're getting even another layer of thought into your deductions. And this can help your deductions be far more accurate. It's why Sherlock Holmes takes Watson on as many cases as he can, because it's just that much more in depth. Here's another one that I like to do is make subtle changes to yourself. Maybe wear a new shirt for the first time and then go look in the mirror and see if there's any way you can identify that it's a brand new shirt. Or try tying a tie different and seeing how if you can notice anything changed about that. Or put your belt on different, or just try different things to yourself and then make note of those changes when you go look at yourself in the mirror, because that'll help you identify changes in other people too. Finally, just think about other people's point of view. So when you make a deduction about someone and you have a general idea what kind of person they are, maybe you've deduced that they're in the military, or they're on the police, or that they're in some sort of public service. Now what you can do is you have a small keyhole into their mindset. So knowing their mentality will help you confirm your deductions a bit. For example, if you assume someone's in the military, you can assume that there's a certain type of mindset that they'll have. There's a respect, there's an air that military people have about them. And if they're not acting in accord with that sort of mindset that they should be having, that a military person would normally have, you might realize that you're on the wrong track, that they might not be military, there might be something else that you missed. So if you can get inside their head a little bit, if you can think of things from their point of view, it can help you confirm or deny some of your deductions. And that's a big thing, is making sure you can confirm or deny your deductions. Thinking like Sherlock, he has made several good points about how it's important to confirm your deductions, otherwise there's a bit of just probability that you're working with. And the more deductions that you make, the smaller the chances that you're right, because you haven't been able to confirm them. And then I have another friend who has asked me several times, how do you confirm your deductions? How do you know you're right? And there's a lot of ways to confirm your deductions are correct, but at the same time, in a lot of situations, you don't have that luxury of just asking someone, hey, am I right in assuming that you're left-handed and you're from the military and you're from England? You don't have a lot of chances, especially I do, because of what I do for work is I do have a lot of customer interaction. So I've had multiple times where I've deduced an order before they ever even got up to the counter, made their drink for them, put it out for them, and then I have a conversation about where they've come from, and they get into this conversation and they stop and they're like, wait, how do you know where I'm from? I can do that. I can confirm my deductions in person with them because I have customer interaction. But if you're just passing someone on the street, you can't really confirm your deductions. So it's important to kind of reflect on your deductions, and they will oftentimes, if something doesn't add up right, it'll reveal itself. I'm approaching the 10-minute mark on this video now, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you for watching. Go ahead and check out Thinking Like Sherlock. His last video, I'll have a link in the bottom because it has a little bit to do with this tip video that I made. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more content.